Please give a warm welcome to Nikolaj Køster from Spiri.
All right, I have some good news for you guys. I am actually not here to sell a product because our company tanked just before I got here. So I can sort of be free from the shackles of product pitching. So what I'm going to talk about today is sort of the journey that we went on, which is trying to solve some of the issues that are within mobility. And I think it's hugely exciting. So sort of my story is that I've worked 6 years with mobility, worked in 2 companies, and now I'm obviously about to embark on the next company, the 3rd one. So my theme for today is that the future is just around the corner. So when I was actually in an Uber on my way from the airport a couple of hours ago into here, if you look out the windows of any car today, look at the streets, it doesn't really look like the future yet. What I mean by that is that we still have the traditional cars, we still have the traditional car ownership model all around us. But very, very soon this is actually going to be the case. So those of you who have kids, this is your kid. So he will look at you at some point when he grows up, because he'll never have a driver's license, and he'll be like, what were you guys doing? So just before I got here, I was actually, I think I know a lot about cars, but I actually didn't know really how long the car has existed. It's actually existed for more than 130 years. And in my world, at least in my perception, I also think a lot of other people, if the car was sort of born here and it dies here, we are sort of here right now. So what is the future then? So this is my sort of copy-pasted, mashed up definition of what the future looks like. So first of all, the future of mobility is as a service. That means, and actually let me just say something, this is probably 90% of what the future of mobility looks like. You can find all sorts of use cases where this doesn't fit. So if you need to go to IKEA and pick up a bed, it's probably going to take a while until this sort of model can solve that. But if we look at the majority of transport taking place in cities, this is going to be how it's going to look. So let's just quickly recap the definitions. As a service means you don't own the vehicles, obviously. Electric, you know. Shared, that you can actually try already today in a couple of countries. I'll come back to that later. And obviously self-driving, you know what that is. So just quickly saying what we'll talk about today. Recap the problems, what's going on in the world, what are the solutions to this, and then I'll talk about this venture that tanked. So the problem with what's going on in the world today, obviously, is fossil fuels, it's emissions. 25% of all the emissions globally is actually coming from transport, and then the actual car part is a big part of those 25%. Utilization, that means that when you look out the window of your cars, when you're driving around in the cities, it's about 1.5 people sitting inside the car, average global. So that means 1 driving and then half a person sitting next to that person in the car. Then you got parking as well. I think all of you have heard some of these statistics as well. We actually rarely drive our cars, so that's actually the crazy thing about it. If you buy a Rolex watch, you probably wear it every single day. If you buy a car, you actually only use it 5% of the time. 95% of the time, it's actually parked somewhere. That's pretty bad for cities because they're parked inside the cities. You don't park them outside of the cities, because how are you going to get to them? So, and the interesting thing in this actually is that kind of originally when the car started, when the concept of the car started, it actually started to replace the horse. You've all heard the sort of the faster horse story. So the problem today actually is that the speed at which the cars travel in the city is actually slower than a horse. So I was checking the numbers for it. So if you take London, which is probably the worst place, it's around 14.5 kilometers an hour on average, and that's slower than a horse cart. I'm from Copenhagen. I think it was 22 kilometers an hour, so maybe Krakow is somewhere around the Copenhagen mark as well. And then you have accidents. That's obviously very terrible. If you just look at how many people actually killed, it's 1.3 million people a year, and 93% of all these accidents actually happen because of human errors. So the solution is coming, and it's pretty simple. It's what I said in the beginning. It's this, and there'll be there are a lot of companies working to do this. And then there are a couple of what I call the sort of not quite their solutions, but I just want to say, sort of celebrate them, because it's really, really important what these guys are doing. So there are some companies that are as a service and that are shared. Those are Uber Pool, for instance, not the normal Uber, because normal Uber is not shared. You sit alone in an Uber, but you don't own the Uber car, so it's a good step. But the better next step is Uber Pool, because then you're multiple people sharing the vehicle. Lyft, Line, and Via as an example as well. So yeah, that's multiple people very happy inside a car. You have another example of somebody ticking a couple of boxes, which are as a service, but then ticks the box of the electric, which is Drive Now, Car2Go as well. Also an excellent service, but again, it's not shared, so you don't have multiple strangers sitting and then actually utilizing the vehicle. Thus, it's quite an expensive option if you want to move around. Yeah, so this is what we did. I was really excited about this actually when we did it. First, we for 4 years we built a lot of sort of technology for the mobility industry, for taxi companies, and then we thought, is there a way actually? Is there a way that we can sort of get to autonomous before autonomous is there? And what I mean by that is, can we remove the driver from the equation? Because if you look at the pricing of going into a taxi, by far the biggest component of the cost matrix is actually the driver. So if you can remove the driver from that, you get extremely cheap transport. If you can get extremely cheap transport, you can actually move people away from owning cars. That's why everything is such a big cliffhanger on autonomous driving. The second you have legal autonomous driving cars in the cities, everybody's going to move to it because it's going to be so cheap. So the model that we actually tried to do was say, we don't have self-driving right now, but is there a way that we can both do the as a service so you don't own it, do the electric, and actually do it shared as well? It was a big moonshot. Again, moonshots sometimes fail. What I just want to say is that I'm just going to show you the model as it is right now, and if anybody wants to steal it, you can actually steal it because there's no copyright on it.
We believe that transport around the city should be better than what public transportation and taxis offer. With Spiri, just tap a button to carpool in an electric vehicle custom-built for urban transport. Drive the Spiri for free and share it with passengers who are going in the same direction. Or be a passenger at the price of a bus ticket. Spiri is about the people. It's a community that together makes moving around your city incredibly affordable. It's safe, convenient, and incredibly low cost. Get early access. Request an invite on Spiri.io.
Yeah, so don't request an invite because the site is down. That's just going to be embarrassing. So I just wanted a couple of things on this. So why did we start with this at all? If you look at the taxis of today, primarily actually the taxis of Central Europe, but also everywhere else, they are jack of all trades, master of none. So they can go 250 kilometers an hour, top speed, or maybe more even if it's a really fast Mercedes. You can have like skis on top of the roof. You can take your whole family and so on. But the fact of the matter is that, again, the average speeds in the cities are really, really low, and you don't carry a lot of luggage in your standard taxi trip and so on. You could actually do it with a lot less. So that's what we did. We got a whole bunch of car engineers, car designers from some of the big manufacturers, and then we built this. You saw it in the video as well, which is prototype futuristic microbus that weighs only 700 kilos, but goes almost the same distance on a battery charge as a Tesla Model S, the lowest 70 kilowatt model. And it has more legroom in the rear than a Mercedes S-Class, the big one. So yeah, that was quite fun. And obviously, the pitch was that if you just take one of these cars, you can drive it for free as long as you pick somebody up who's going the same way. So that was sort of our shot at this urban transport nirvana. I just want to wrap up with, and I hate myself for doing this, but I'm actually stealing sort of a quote from this guy, who's sort of a guru, obviously, within this. But I really honestly think that, so when we started, we built our concept on top of other stuff. We obviously looked at what Uber had been doing, we looked at what Lyft had been doing, etc. And in the hardware, we looked at a whole ton of companies as well. And then we sort of built a mashup of that, and out came a concept. So if anything, what I hope is that what we have done might be an inspiration to somebody, because if we are to solve these mobility problems, these problems in the cities, they're not going to be solved by themselves. They're going to be solved by people coming out with ideas, trying to put them to life. 9 out of 10 of them will fail, but one will survive. That was it for me today. Thank you so much.